Welcome to Married Life Fails, where real-life fails turn into unforgettable stories. Today's tale is a wild ride that starts with a sleepy Sunday morning and ends with a painful, hilarious lesson in married life. One husband tried to show love to his wife in the most boob-man way possible and got a headbutt as his reward. Yep, you read that right. Sometimes, affection goes wrong in the funniest ways. Stick around to find out how a romantic moment turned into a swollen eyebrow and a story neither of them will forget. It all started on a typical Sunday morning, the kind of day designed for sleeping in, no alarms, no rushing. For this couple, Sundays had a sacred rhythm. The wife would sleep in while the husband quietly handled things around the house. Then, when it felt like a good time, he would gently wake her up, usually in the same way by climbing into bed and giving her a soft, standing hug from above, a sweet tradition. It wasn't just about waking her up. It was a quiet little gesture of affection, a way to connect without words. This Sunday morning started no differently. The husband waited until the sun was well into the sky, then walked into the bedroom where his wife was still asleep, curled under the covers. He leaned over the bed and wrapped his arms around her like always, resting his chest against her back while she stirred slowly. These moments were tender and familiar, safe. She murmured something half asleep and started shifting, rolling from one side to another. The hug dissolved into soft contact as he straightened up slightly, letting her move freely. And that's when everything changed, not dramatically at first, but subtly. It was a small detail, the kind you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. But he noticed. As she turned over onto her back, the fabric of her nightgown shifted ever so slightly and revealed a generous amount of cleavage. Nothing scandalous. Nothing she hadn't worn around him before. But to him, it was like gravity shifted in the room. He describes himself plainly, "I'm a boob guy." Sure, he could appreciate a nice butt, but boobs were his thing, his absolute weakness. And lucky for him, his wife never minded. In fact, she enjoyed that he enjoyed them. There had never been shame or awkwardness between them about that. So in that quiet bedroom, still half lit by morning, he smiled to himself. This was love, right? Wanting your wife even after years together? Wanting her when she didn't even know you were looking? The temptation grew. It wasn't even about sex, more like a spontaneous need to show affection in a goofy, heartfelt way. That's where the idea struck him. He was going to motorboat her. Silly? Yes. Immature? Probably. But it was their kind of silly. A private language between two people who knew each other deeply. He bent over slowly, grinning, trying not to wake her fully. It was going to be a harmless, funny little gesture. But the timing? Oh, the timing. Just as he leaned in to deliver his playful motorboat, she stirred again. This time, instead of rolling her body, she adjusted her head sharply, to the side right into his incoming face. Crack. A loud, sudden thud filled the room as his forehead collided directly with her eyebrow. The sound was disgusting. The impact was real. His first thought wasn't pain, it was panic. He yanked his head back in horror and looked down at her face, now scrunched in confusion and pain. Her eyes flew open, but not from love or laughter. She groaned, reached for her eyebrow, and muttered, "What the hell was that?" His heart sank. He immediately started apologizing in a rush, stammering something about how he didn't mean to, that he was just trying to... "Oh my God," she said, blinking hard. "Did you just headbutt me?" "Yes," he admitted, horrified. There was already a pink spot forming above her right eye. He ran to get an ice pack, all romantic energy gone, replaced by guilt and adrenaline. When he got back, she was still groaning softly, trying to laugh but clearly hurting. That moment, the awful, immediate realization that he had hurt her while trying to be sweet would haunt him for days. But somehow, despite the swelling, she was already starting to laugh. Sitting there with an ice pack pressed to her face, she finally let out a full laugh. "Well," she said, "that's what I get for having boobs, I guess." He stared at her. "No, this is 100% on me," he insisted. But she shook her head. "I was the one who moved." They went back and forth like that, each trying to take the blame for what had become a ridiculous morning injury. It was strange, How something so minor could cause a swirl of emotion, worry, guilt, affection, and then laughter. 15 minutes later, the swelling became noticeable. The pink spot above her eyebrow darkened. It wasn't horrible, no ER trip needed, but it was obvious enough that it might raise questions if she left the house. He felt like an absolute arsehole. He kept saying, "I'm so sorry," in between nervous chuckles. She kept laughing too, but it was the kind of laugh people do when they're in pain but know it's ridiculous. She even joked about telling people she was in a bar fight. "Yeah, my husband got jealous and headbutted me before breakfast." "Please don't tell anyone that," he begged. It was the kind of moment where love, humor, and clumsiness all collided literally. But it also reminded them both of something deeper. Accidents happen, especially when you feel comfortable enough to be goofy and vulnerable around each other. Later that day, after the pain had mostly subsided and the swelling stopped growing, they both recounted the story out loud over coffee, of course, and the more they told it, the funnier it became. There was something deeply human about it. A husband trying to express affection in a ridiculous, boyish way, and a wife who took it with humor and grace, even with an ice pack on her face. They turned the moment into a running joke. He'd go to hug her, and she'd flinch playfully. "Not the eyebrow again," she'd tease. He'd mock, threaten to wear a helmet to bed. In their little world, the mishap transformed into another private story, added to the collection of silly memories that all couples build over time. And maybe that's what makes a marriage work, not the flawless romantic gestures, but the flawed, funny, unexpected ones. The mistakes that turn into inside jokes, the "I'm sorries" that end in snorts of laughter, the swollen brows that somehow make you feel even more connected. Looking back, he knew this story would stay with them, not as a source of shame, but as a reminder that love, at its best, is messy, unpredictable, and real. So there you have it, a love story with a bruise. A Sunday morning that turned from sweet to slapstick in seconds. If you ever think married life gets boring, think again. Sometimes, it just takes a boob joke and bad timing to spark the funniest memory of the year. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that prove love is weird, but totally worth it.